Aliens?
Aliens.
Yes.
But maybe no. All right, so welcome to the show. Aliens. Yes, but maybe no. I'm Travis.
And I am Josh.
And this is an otherworldly podcast as ambiguous as our title. Now, just for the listener, I believe in aliens pretty strongly. I think that they exist. I think that our universe is too big for them not to exist. I think that it's just a matter of, like, I don't know, evolution and space. And anyway, like I said, our universe is huge. So for there not to be aliens makes me feel a little uncomfortable in my brain.
Yeah.
That being said, we're going to talk today about a documentary that we watched called Bob Lazar, Area 51 and
UFOs.
UFO. Is that what it's called? Area 51, UFO and
such.
Okay. I just wanted to get the title. Oh, it's Area 51 ampersand flying saucers. So, yeah, we're talking about this documentary that I watched. Josh sent it to me, so this is going to be the topic for our show. I watched it last night.
Did you rent it?
No, it's on Tubi.
Oh, is it? Okay. I bought it.
Free with ads.
Yeah, I bought it.
Okay, man. Money bags?
No, I just want to sound
Just
like an owner.
Like throwing money around. So where did you buy it? Did you buy it through Amazon?
Yes, Amazon.
Like $4? Or did you rent it?
I think it was $5. We bought it.
$5.
Renting was like $3.99 and buying it
yeah.
was $5.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't. I found it on Tubi. Tubi's doing a lot of heavy lifting for media consumption for me lately. It's free. You should check it out.
I should. I've heard good things.
It has ads though. So if you don't like ads, it's not for you.
I mean, if there's things that I don't have to buy, I don't mind ads.
Yeah, Tubi has a lot of shit.
Okay.
Tubi, if you're listening, sponsorship would be nice.
Yeah.
Tubi. I'll promote the shit out of you.
Yeah.
I already do.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
There we
So
go.
that's the podcast. We introduced a documentary, Bob Lazar, Area 51, ampersand flying saucers, right? That's good. That's all we needed.
That's all we need. So Bob is one of the more influential whistleblowers of the alien and UFO community.
This was a 2018 documentary, just
Oh, was it really?
for those that are interested in how current it is. It was done in collaboration with a guy named George Knapp, this documentary. He had an interview at the very beginning of this, right? That was him in the pool. They had terrible audio.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
That audio in his like pool room.
Maybe it was his pool room. Maybe it was a hotel that he just decided to meet in. But it wasn't. It was
terrible. What you would expect a recording to sound like in an echoey room with a pool.
It was a bad choice to decide to record that piece of his.
Or an artistic choice, because there was a lot of artistic
there were a lot of wild artistic choices made in this, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were saying about Bob Lazar before I interrupted you.
He was one of the original whistleblowers, 30 years ago?
1980...
89?
It was 87 to 89 is when he called out Area 51.
So 1989 is when he had his interview.
Does that check it in with your notes?
Yep.
Okay.
So 1989, he had an interview with George Knapp. We got to see this interview in the documentary.
Yep. Where he's in a truck and you see him awkwardly step out of the truck. So they must have gotten like the raw footage from that, because I don't think that they would have aired that part of it. But
no.
He's in the truck and then he just kind of opens the truck door and gets out. And then you could almost see him. And I'm not that familiar with Bob Lazar, but they dropped this in this documentary about 10 minutes in, maybe. They'd already talked to Bob Lazar or had like interviews of him talking, so you knew what his profile looked like. So if you knew what Bob Lazar looked
and
like,
sounded
like, he's got a very distinct voice. If you knew what he sounded like, I mean, you would
know exactly who was being hidden.
Yeah,
it was very...
You would hone right in on who that was.
It was almost comical. It's like if you went and did an interview about me.
Yeah.
And half your face was...
Or I did an interview about my dogs and my family watched it and they were like, well, that's weird. Why is
Travis doing this?
Why is he in silhouette?
Why is he trying to hide himself poorly?
Yeah.
It's strange because the topic of the movie was futuristic science.
Well, just taking...
And they couldn't modulate his voice.
Something that's been in the popular vernacular for a long time. Like, people have always assumed Area 51's been around. I thought Area 51 was, like, from the 60s. So, like, Men in Black 2, where they go back to the 50s or whatever.
Yeah.
Or is that 3? But anyway, they go back to the 50s and they're having first contact with aliens, and that's when that agency started. I just assumed that lined up with when our knowledge of aliens in Area 51 started as well. I didn't realize that it was as recent as 1989 that it became part of, like, popular culture.
Like, people started being like, what is this?
Yeah.
And I think the military even denied after he said.
Right. And according to our notes, it was officially recognized in 2013.
Are you serious? Well, that's crazy. And so Bob we found out that he worked in a sub area of Area 51. It was 12 or 14 miles out into a hillside or into a mountainside called S4. Mm-hmm. It was near the Nellis Air Force Base, which is what we know as Area 51. And he claimed the site consisted of concealed aircraft hangars built into the mountainside, and that his job was to help with reverse engineering 9 flying saucers, which he alleged were extraterrestrial in origin.
Yeah, he said that we did not have the technology to build a craft like this, and he points out this thing that's referred to as Element 115, which is called ununpentium, I think, which is very similar to like unobtainium, which is James Cameron's element in Avatar. So maybe James Cameron's got a finger in this pie. I don't know. But
probably.
Then it was scientifically recognized as microbium. And he said that this element that was on the sphere in this documentary repulsed human flesh. And I don't mean like repulsed, like made you sick. Like it was like
an ugly element.
Yeah, it was like ugly element. Well, yeah. Ununpentium or whatever it's called is kind of it's a mouthful to say. But he said when he was reaching towards this orb, it pushed his hands back like a force field. And so he was absolutely fascinated by this. And the way he got, so just like as part of this documentary we watched, he had talked about his interview with the physicist that was hiring as head physicist for Area 51 or whatever. He said he'd built a
reactor? A Hadron Collider.
Yeah.
Particle accelerator.
Particle accelerator. Yeah. That he had in his room.
Yeah, when he was a kid.
Well, like
a teenager.
Probably college. He said he had one in his room at the time. So, and we're taking his word for it.
That's true. So yeah, he claims he worked on reverse engineering alien technology, the discovery of element 115. It was the fuel for the spacecrafts and the existence of extraterrestrial spacecrafts. Mm-hmm. That's his claims. And you can read more. He has a testimony on his website, boblazar.com.
Humble plug.
Yeah.
What are we, Bob Lazar shills? Are we shilling for Bob Lazar?
So he came onto this news station in Nevada with George Knapp.
Yeah.
And I was very confused. Like, I thought, he was a whistleblower because he wanted the world to have the greater knowledge. I don't know. But he did it because he wanted to protect himself. He says, they can't kill me if I'm out and about with this information.
Okay. That's wild. I mean, they could.
They could. Yeah. I mean, look at the Boeing whistleblowers. 2 of them died.
Yeah.
Listening to him, he regrets it. Sometimes he kind of wishes that he didn't come out.
Well, that's the not the problem, but that's a thing that whistleblowers all have to take into consideration is coming out from the shadows, no matter what it is, whether it's, Boeing or a government agency, there are consequences for that. Like, You're not just going to say, this is happening, we need to draw attention to it, and think you're not going to have any consequences for that. So that is the fear that all whistleblowers have. If he was a true whistleblower, then that was a brave thing to do. It's a hard thing.
Absolutely. And I also listened to the Joe Rogan interview, and he was really surprised that no one else that he worked with came out.
Yeah.
And it actually probably cemented.
Well, do you think that's because there's no, do you think it was made up? Do you think he made all this stuff up?
I don't think so.
And just has like a working knowledge of chemistry?
It's possible, but there's just too many things that he talked about that were denied that eventually, just like Element 115. Mm-hmm. They all denied it, and now it's on the periodic table.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So after he came out, did this long thing, just bluntly, just first sentence. He didn't ease into this whistleblow.
Yeah.
He's just, I saw alien aircrafts.
Right. Okay.
I have been reverse engineering.
Yeah.
This.
There's even part of his testimony where he's like, I was walking down a hall and I saw two regularly sized human beings talking to a very short creature with very long arms.
He mentioned that in the movie.
Yeah.
Did he later in the movie say, no, I don't think that was an actual alien?
No, he didn't say later. He did say that he saw the inside of the craft and that the seats were very small. And he's like, imagine we were designing a ship for children. That's what this would look like.
Okay, so I think it was the Joe Rogan. He's like, no, I don't think I actually saw an alien. I think it was two scientists with a dummy sitting there in the seat. Like they put together a dummy to see what the size would be for the chair.
Okay, because his testimony in this documentary was, and I might be wrong, but they were standing in a hallway talking down to an alien or an extraterrestrial being.
Yeah, he was walking down the hallway and there was a 18 by 18 window into the room and he just looked in. And I think he got in trouble for looking in too.
Yeah, no looky-loos.
Yep.
That's their policy. They have that written on the walls at Area 51.
No looky-loos.
No looky-loos.
So
if you got time to look, you got time to cook up some more Element 115. Get back to work.
Yeah, it's just a big meth lab for Element 115.
I mean, not meth, but yeah.
So Bob
Lazar.
He is a propulsions expert. So that's why he was
person
hired
to make that joke.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Cool.
He was a propulsions expert who was featured in the news for a jet car that he used to drive to work. Later, which we'll get into this next segment, is how his whistleblowing was not received well. So the immediate reaction from the scientific community and the media was insane.
Uh-huh.
Everyone just shunned him. There was a ton of efforts to discredit him. And we think that, I mean, it looks as though the government responded by just trying to scrub his existence. It didn't seem like they focused very much on that. They just kind of dabbled in it a little bit on the movie. I mean, it was crazy.
Yes, it was crazy.
It would drive me crazy if something like that happened. If I said something and all of a sudden they...
Right. We talked about this. We talked about like the risks of whistleblowing. That's it's a real threat no matter where you're employed.
But to have the resources of someone trying to sabotage what you're saying, which, I mean, they go really far. They do a lot of crazy
there's some pretty
things.
Character assassination stuff in here, in our old dossier. Thank you, Jordan, for putting this together for us, by the way.
Yeah, our researcher is the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do you have a personal connection with our researcher?
Yep.
Cool.
She's my wife, and she does everything 110%.
Mm-hmm.
And she's very passionate about these topics.
So what are we talking about, like his criminal activity or?
So a year later, he was arrested for aiding and abetting a prostitute ring.
Yeah, so 1990.
This was reduced to felony pandering.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either. So he pled guilty.
Yeah, he pled guilty to it.
And was ordered to do 150 hours of community service.
Yeah.
That is a weird transition, going from reverse engineering alien tech to pandering prostitutes.
I don't know. It's like he's a human man, and I'm not gonna like kink shame anybody.
I'm not shaming.
Everybody has their vices, and he pled guilty to the reduced charges.
I mean, good for him.
So I think this just plays into like them trying to discredit anything that he said or is saying, or like, well, this guy is into smut and objectifying women, so can you really trust him when it comes to chemistry and these things that he's claiming? So this is part of the character assassination that took place.
But are they saying, so aiding and abetting, does that mean he hired a prostitute or was he a pimp?
That's a good question. I don't know. More on that later, maybe.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Further research is due to this topic.
If we ever have like a Patreon or bonus paid episodes, we'll
just talk about what his sexual proclivities were. Like
Pimp Lazar, an episode of the dark underbelly side of Bob Lazar and his pimp days.
And science.
Yeah. Yeah, so there was that. In 2006, he and his wife, Joy White, were charged with violating the Federal Hazardous Substance Act for shipping restricted chemicals across state lines. The charges were stemmed from a raid in 2003 on United Nuclear's business offices where the chemical sales records were examined. So that is where he now works, it seems, because that was shown in the movie.
Okay.
It's shown him working there.
At United Nuclear?
Yeah, with different metals. And then in 2017...
I was under the impression that he was working in his own like independent research facility.
I think he owns that place.
It seems like it was him and then one other guy who loved working there. Like,
it did seem like
weirdly loved. He just would. That's all he talked about. I love working here. You don't get to come and mess with this kind of stuff anywhere else. And
yeah,
it's a pleasure to work here. A lot of the info I felt like was leading up to the Element 115, and it spent a lot of time on that. There wasn't a whole lot on
who he was.
Well, not just that. It's Bob Lazar, Area 51, and flying saucers. And I didn't feel like there was enough in there about the two subtitles of that, the Area 51 and flying saucers. It was kind of covering like Bob Lazar's work history and not even covering the controversy, because I don't remember there being a controversy in that documentary. I'm just now reading about it in the dossier that was put together.
Yeah, so that's what was interesting. So you going into watching this movie, you're like, I don't know who Bob Lazar is.
Yeah.
Watching this,
I thought he was the Ancient Aliens guy.
You still don't. I mean, you do a little bit more, but
come at me, alien bros. Do it.
But you don't really. The documentary didn't inform you of who Bob Lazar was, other than
a whistleblower one, which, I mean, I don't think they even say that in the documentary that he was a whistleblower. That was just something that popped into my head. I was like, oh, he's a guy that introduced us to Area 51. Okay, that's who Bob Lazar is. All right. So then things started to fall into place after that knowledge hit. My problem with this is I have not ever seen a movie with Bob Lazar in it. And like my alien references mostly are going to be centered around movies. So like that is my introduction to aliens, you know, thanks to Steven Spielberg, like seeing E.T. when I was a wee lad. So,
Bob Lazar kind of looks like Stephen King.
He does look like Stephen King very much. He's got those big round glasses that have like, I mean, not currently, but back when Bob Lazar was Bob Lazar, he had like these glasses that had like that crossbeam on it. And like any engineer you knew from the 80s or 90s, they were wearing these exact glasses.
And I think they're
cool glasses. I wear glasses, and I was looking at getting a pair of these just because I thought they were like very cool retro glasses.
Yeah.
But putting them on my face just makes me look like a creepy pedo.
I can see that.
Well, that's why I'm not wearing them. I don't want people to see that. I don't want people to,
especially when you went through your mustache stage.
Oh, that was the worst. Yeah, that was the worst. I looked like the Lorax.
He did.
I speak for the trees.
I don't think we need any more proof that he was an engineer other than the glasses.
Yeah, no, that's cred right there.
That's lab cred.
Yeah.
I was going to say street cred, but he's far from it.
Yeah, he's far from the streets.
Other than him driving
a rocket ship
to work, and he actually made the news. And later, when people were trying to discredit him, the place that he would drive to work and was in the local newspaper about it, they said he never worked there. And then they went to look at his colleges. They said he never went to college.
He didn't have a record of ever being at MIT. He was enrolled in another school, but it was like 2,500 miles away. The guy, George Knapp, did reveal that he was in the directory for Area 51. No, maybe it wasn't Area 51, but he was in a directory that if he wasn't employed
Alamos.
If he wasn't employed there, why would his name be in the directory? But again, like, are we looking at like paper records in a paper phone book? Like that could be faked.
Yeah, he found his name along with some of the other scientific technicians in a phone book.
Yeah, phone book.
Which I wish phone books were still a thing. Like company phone books or church phone books or school phone books. Do you remember the school phone books?
When I got my first cell phone as a very young lad, I remember putting a tiny version of the phone book because they would send these giant ass phone books that had everything in it. And then you would get a smaller version of like businesses and then some residential stuff. And I remember putting that in my car and thinking, this is the coolest. This is like peak adulthood.
Yeah, I have an index of every business.
Yeah. Or if somebody was riding around with me, I'd say like, oh yeah, if you need to look up Pizza Hut, there's a phone book under my passenger seat. Go ahead.
I would find funny people, like funny names in the white pages and just call them and be like, hi, is this John Hamburger? And then he's like, yeah. And I was like, and then I would just hang up.
So this is part of the no aliens portion of the podcast.
I mean, it lines up because there was a company phone book.
Yeah.
And he was in it.
Phone books are wild.
Yeah, and they said he wasn't in it.
Yeah.
And then he was also named one of the technicians or scientists at Los Alamos in the newspaper because he drove his rocket car to work every day. That would go 200 miles an hour.
God, I hope not. That's really fast. Well, where's his rocket car now?
I don't know.
Is there pictures of him driving his rocket car?
Yeah, in the newspaper.
Okay, I see it. It looks like a DeLorean. Imagine what you think a rocket car would look like, and that's practically it. It looks like Marty McFly's DeLorean from Back to the Future, except it doesn't have the what are those doors called that go up?
I don't know what those are
Wing
called.
doors?
Yeah. So it was 1982 is when this picture in the newspaper came out. And it's a picture, a man with a car with George Knapp, the journalist, saying that it profiles Lazar and his interest in jet cars. And it zooms in on the clip and it says, it's not the car so much that's important to Lazar, a physicist at Los Alamos Mason Physics Facility. The important thing is the jet engine. It's something he's been working on for years. It started a while ago when working with another researcher in NASA on the technology.
Okay.
So that's what the article said.
Yeah, look at that. That's same with his rocket car.
And he was on a rocket bike
it
in
has
the
like
movie.
an engine in the back. It's a hatchback, so the back is open, and then this engine is sitting in the back of his car. It's like the most ridiculous thing. But there he is standing on the hood at the hood of his car, looking like a cool guy. This is a poster called Alive in the Darkness, the story of Bob Lazar.
I want that poster.
It's pretty cool. He does look like Stephen King, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an article. This is a real hot rod. Bob Lazar isn't kidding when he says his car runs on a jet engine. The physicist at Los Alamos National Laboratory modified his compact car for a jet engine that can propel it up to 200 miles per hour. So this was an article in, it doesn't say, it's just a newspaper clip.
It looks like because of our wonderful researcher, it was Los Alamos Monitor article. So it was in 1982. It was the date reading Sunday, June, it says 2X on here, but I think it's June 2nd or June 20 something.
Oh, 2 redacted.
Ooh. But that's the thing, is like they were saying he didn't work there. They're saying he didn't go to all these colleges. Why would he have these jobs if he didn't go to college?
Have you seen the movie Catch Me If You Can?
Yeah.
That basically covers how you can get away with it.
Yeah.
Where Leo is just like very good at manufacturing documents. And back then, I mean, internet wasn't what it was. We didn't have it as a resource or a database. And I'm not calling into question Bob Lazar's credentials or anything like that. I'm just saying that it is very reasonable to suspect that he could have made this up back then. It is well within reason. It was so much easier to get away with this sort of like fraud then, because of the lack of internet and internet accessibility. Like the process for checking any sort of resource that you, not recommendation, what is it where you, references. When you were calling to check on references, it was just that. It was a phone call. You would make a phone call or you could send.
And most people didn't even call.
Yeah, they just assumed you were, at your word.
Like the woman that was doing sign language for the White House in that press conference.
And because nobody there spoke sign language, they had no idea. They're just like, okay,
she was
she's
there
totally
on live television.
Yeah, she's nailing it.
And she was just making hand signals that meant nothing.
Yeah. Yep.
She just lied.
Yeah, and she lied, and she
And
got
if
away
she,
with it for a
if
while.
she, I don't know how she got that position. Maybe it was like on her resume, and she just lied about it. And they're like, "Oh, our
Or she
translator."
she'd mentioned like to her boss. Maybe she worked at that agency, a government agency, and mentioned to her boss that she knows ASL, American Sign Language. And he was like, "Well, we need." I assume it was a he because it's government and because it's a patriarchy. Smash the patriarchy. Just be nice to me because I'm on your side. I'm an ally. And I think what had happened is she had said she knows ASL, and the guy was like, well, we have a press conference coming up. We need somebody to communicate this broad spectrum. If you could be our ASL liaison, perfect.
And she looked so nervous while she was doing it.
Yeah, and then she did it, and then it was just like
she got caught.
It looked like she was casting a spell.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't know ASL and you don't,
I wouldn't know what to
you
do.
don't recognize that's a language people are speaking. It does look like a wizard casting a spell. Take that out if it's offensive.
I don't think it is.
Okay, well,
because ASL doesn't look like you're casting a spell, but she did.
She looked like she was casting
not
a spell.
using.
But I'm saying, say you came to this planet and you were watching somebody wave their hands about like that. You had an idea. Okay, that's also okay. So we also have to assume they have a working knowledge of magic and what a wizard is, right? So these aliens come to this planet, and the only thing they're missing is knowing that ASL is a language. So they look at that and they're like, "Oh shit, they have magic. We have magic too."
Or they spent a lot of time wondering what it was, and then their only conclusion was it was magic.
Yeah, it was magic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, she got fired for magic.
It seems as though we derailed
That's right.
a little bit, but
yeah, no, that's fine. That's the fun of this. So taking these little bird walks.
It's healthy to have a suspicion.
Not a suspicion. I'm a skeptic.
You're a skeptic.
I believe in aliens. I just don't trust the community. I think the community is pretty toxic and very paranoid. I'm not like a little government boy who believes everything that the government says, but I do have a certain level of trust in what we're hearing from the government. And call me a trusting rube. I don't care.
Well, this is about what we're not hearing from the government.
Well, no, I mean, what we're addressing is the things that we know and things that have been redacted. That's what we're talking about. And then the alien community as a whole, I don't know if... Do you guys have a name? Do you have a name?
That's a big stamp statement.
Yeah, is it do they have a name? Are they like, do they call themselves alien bros?
UFOologists?
UFOologists? Okay. Well, yeah.
It is a big stamp statement saying that the entire community is crazy conspiracists.
I didn't say the entire community. I'm saying the involvement, little as it is, with that community has been one of paranoia.
Honestly, there are kooky, crazy people out there that say, I saw Bigfoot.
Yeah, and well, that's the other thing is all of these conspiracy theorists, they all get lumped into one big pot. And so if you believe in Bigfoot, Yeti, then you also believe in Wendigo. You also believe in skinwalkers. You also believe in aliens and
leprechauns.
Extraterrestrials. No, nobody believes in leprechauns. Not anymore. But they're all just painted with a big, broad brush. And I'm sorry if I offended you guys by saying you're all paranoid freaks, but that's my impression with you paranoid freaks.
That's the thing is there's a lot of people that are not that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these people are high officials, ministers of defense. I mean, these are credible people. And it took even more courage for them to come out because the government, it has seemed as though they're discrediting anyone that talks about it. I mean, anyone in the military, if they talk about it, they'd be relieved of their duty. All these things because they'd call them crazy.
What I would say to that is cite your sources. Like, I want to know who these government officials are and why they're fired. Like, I don't know anything about.
We'll get there.
Ministry of Defense, Ministry of the Magical Arts, or whatever department they work in or agency they work for.
We'll get there. You'll learn this stuff. And we'll learn it together. I don't know any of the names right now, but I just know they exist. I've seen clips. I've seen footage. I've listened to podcasts about some of these people.
Yeah.
And I think they're just upset with the community when there's people that are like the aliens. They contact me every night and they take me up and they put things in me. You know, like you go to an alien convention, a lot of the people there more so fantasize about the idea of aliens, or I don't know how they...
Sure.
They may believe it, or they could just be straight lying. I don't know. But I do believe that a lot of these people...
Or it could have been an experience they had, and then because we are, as human beings, we are storytellers. That's in our DNA, and we like to tell a good story. And sometimes if you tell a story long enough, adding to it, as it were. There's a lot of books that we consider sacred right now that I would say fall under the same definition. As you're writing things over years and you add things to it, you start to really believe that story, and it's not fiction for you anymore. Now it is fact. This is part of your person. Like if
you're not remembering the moment, you're remembering a memory.
You're remembering the memory you created for yourself.
And if you remember it multiple times, the memory is going to change.
And also, if you're telling somebody a story, and this is 100% true of me, I look at who I'm talking to and I gauge my story based on their reaction. So it can get a little more outrageous based on who I'm talking to and the reaction I'm getting.
Like
so,
when you said that there was 5 cops at your house, but there was actually 4.
There was only 4. I got raided today. Yep. So very thematic. I got raided today by the police.
You said 5, and I had a blank expression.
So
and then you said, actually,
I better pull back on this. 5 cops that ever show up.
It was 4.
Yeah.
And then I had a reaction. Oh.
Yeah. And then I dove right into the story. But yeah, long story short, thematically, I got raided today because the cops knew that I was going to be recording this podcast.
That's not true. He saw someone pouring oil on a vehicle.
Believe who you will.
Yeah.
No, but I did. I had a very weird experience today. As I was mowing my lawn, there was a truck parked in front of our house. A white male, walked up, checked the doors on the truck. I finished mowing my lawn. He came back and was holding a 3-gallon jug of oil. He checked the lock again. He dumped the oil on the windshield and hood of the car and threw a lit cigarette on it and then took off running down the road. You would think my first reaction would be to call the police, but it was to send my wife a message like, "Hey, something really weird happened. Could you please call me?" And she said she was getting into a meeting, and so I had to explain to her in text what I saw, and she's like, "Yep, you should definitely call the cops." So yeah, I had 4 cops show up in my house, crawling all over this truck and asking questions, and they agreed that it was bizarro.
It is.
It was a weird thing. It was a weird thing that happened to me today before recording this show. I didn't get raided because I was recording a podcast about aliens, or did I?
Or maybe.
Or maybe.
So back to Bob Lazar.
Back to Bob.
They're trying to disqualify. It seems as though that anything and everything that they were just trying to scrub him from existence. Even now, it's hard to find much information on him. You go to his Wikipedia. It's a very small Wikipedia page. There's been over 500 edits since 2019. And we went through the history of the edits to see what was there before. And they had tons of information on him. All of that is gone. And all that remains are seething entries.
Like angry?
Lazar has no evidence of alien life or technology, and his claimed education and employment history is replete with fabrication. Lazar is also a criminal. He was convicted in 1980 for his involvement in a prostitution ring and began in 2006 for selling illegal chemicals. As well as being dismissed by skeptics, Lazar has been renounced by some UFOologists. Journalist Ken Lane states, a lot of credible people have looked at Lazar's story and I think rashly concluded that he made it up.
I think we need to get an actual pronunciation on... Is it ufologist? Is it ufologist? Or is it ufologist?
Ufologist.
Ufologist. I think ufologist is really funny.
It just seems weird. It seems like someone angry wrote this about him.
And it probably was. It probably was an angry person. I mean, a lot of things are done out of spite.
It's very deliberate wording. What it should say is...
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier with the character assassination. Like, they were after Bob Lazar's character. They tried to discredit him. And now I'm going to start to sound like that person, but, just doing this little bit of reading, it does seem like there's some character defamation that was trying to happen where they made light of his whistleblowing and made heavy his involvement in a prostitution ring. Like, that's, if you were to probably look up his criminal history, it's that. Like, prostitution ring. When he got raided later with his wife, it was claimed that it was part of a murder investigation. There was an element thallium that had leaked out and contaminated the lab, and some people died because of it. So that's what they were raiding his house for.
And then in 2017, he got raided again looking for element 115.
He said he stole.
Yeah, which he said privately. They turned off their phones. They were in the woods. And that's the other thing is they've been following him. In the Joe Rogan podcast I listened to, he talked about how they went after some of his friends and family, and some of his friends that were in military or science, they got let go.
As far as that goes, I would say cite your sources. Like, it's easy to say my friends and family are being threatened and just leave it like an obscure allegation or claim like that. But like, if you're going to make something like that and be on a very big podcast, I think you need to be more specific a little bit. You don't have to name names or anything like that, but give.
I mean, it was a 2.5 hour.
I didn't listen to the podcast. I don't know. I'm just saying, cite your sources. That is something that is lacking in our modern media, social media, public media vernacular. As people are not citing their sources, they're just making outrageous claims about things they don't know anything about.
Okay. The other thing is he knew the names of some of the generals working and scientists working at Area 51 that no pedestrian, no one should know.
Sure. Okay.
The interviewer who got him the job at S4 was interviewed and said he does remember Bob interviewing him.
Was he like, yeah, man, Stephen King came into my workplace and just started asking me questions. I thought it was for a book.
The other thing is that he was kind of vindicated over time because some of the things he talked about, which were denied or just seemed fake, were eventually right all along.
Yeah.
Just like the Los Alamos lab that he worked at. This was later.
Okay.
He was in the phone book, the directory of employees there with other scientists.
Right.
Area 51. He said there was a top secret facility in the Nevada desert called Area 51. And like you said, the government denied its existence until 2013. And then the hand scanner that he talked about to actually enter S4, that would like read your bones or whatever. In this documentary, they actually showed an image of it. And Bob was like, I never thought I'd see that again. That is it. That is exactly it. And then element 115.
Yeah.
He didn't know enough about it to seem credible, but in 2003, a joint team of Russians and American scientists at the Joint Institute for Nuclear Research in Russia discovered the synthetic element. So all the weirdness with his past being washed, all the defamation, and then him being right about all of these things, plus all the other whistleblowers. This guy was an early whistleblower. All the newer whistleblowers that are coming out, especially in other countries, that have high clearance. One of the main whistleblowers right now, he's the one that went in and interviewed all the people with top clearance.
Who is it?
I don't remember. We're going to have to do an episode on the current.
Oh, you're going to dox some people.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Juicy episode.
But that's the thing is like these people are the top officials, highest clearance, and they're coming forward in Congress saying, hey, this is real. The world needs to know about it. It is illegal what the United States are doing. And Congress is like, yeah, it is. We want all documentation that the military has now, and we want all whistleblowers to come forward and let us know what you've been doing, and there'll be no punishment. But a lot of the whistleblowers have backed out because they have been getting threats very similar to what Bob Lazar has had. So just everything together, it just seems as though there is something more than just the facts that we know. And the only reason we have the facts that we know are because of the whistleblowers.
Right.
If we didn't have the whistleblowers, we would have no facts at all.
Right. Well, that's fair in any business.
The government said marijuana was bad.
Yeah, and then you have...
And then you try it, and you're like, this isn't bad.
Yeah, and then you have Cheech and Chong saying, like, no, this stuff is fucking good.
Yeah.
This stuff fucking rules. And then Willie Nelson comes out, and they're like, he's like America's grandpa. Like, why would you try to discredit Willie Nelson? He says weed is good.
Well, and now it's legal in a lot of places.
Everywhere here.
Everywhere but where we live in Idaho.
I didn't mean to invoke Cheech and Chong by name, but you can get weed delivered to every other state in our union except Idaho. They say that on their website. They're like, we'll deliver anywhere except to you, Idaho.
That's true. I've seen that.
Yeah, it's hilarious and sad. It's only funny if you don't live here at this.
But that's the thing is like the government said it was wrong forever, and then they're like, oh, never mind, it's not. So I mean they have and that's just
no. I mean, like, okay, if we're gonna get into like that sort of conspiracy stuff, I love drug conspiracy information. Marijuana. There was a campaign to make marijuana seem illegal for various reasons, which we're not going to go into that right now because that's not the point of this podcast. But they made a movie, Reefer Madness, that was a a
scare tactic.
Yeah, they scare tactic to keep people from smoking weed, which was then parodied in a musical later, where they do very similar crazy shenanigans in the movie musical to kind of juxtapose against the original Reefer Madness that was made to like make people afraid of marijuana. And it's marijuana. Like you could smoke the shit out of that. You're either going to smoke yourself sober or smoke yourself passed out. Like marijuana, there are no records of anybody ODing on marijuana. Usually it's in conjunction with another drug.
Just so listeners know, Travis and I actually don't smoke marijuana.
No, I don't. It makes me very weird in my brain.
Same with me. I get panic attacks.
Yep, I get panic attacks. I used to love it. It was my favorite thing to do before cleaning my house, but I can't do it. It gives me so much anxiety.
But it is an interesting history of the drug.
Sure.
I mean, I've heard that lobbyists went against it because of big paper.
There are a lot of reasons, like paper didn't like because hemp was a side product of marijuana or a sister plant of marijuana, and that was going to take away from like paper and any sort of wood product.
Yeah, there's all these crazy things.
Yeah.
It just lets you know that the government isn't always reliable.
No, it's not. Business is not always reliable. It's not necessarily the government. I think the government is, for the most part, acting on behalf of the American people. But there are those few in government that have a lot of power and get that power through big business, through lobbying efforts, and they become rich and powerful because of those. But there are people in government that do have the people's best interests at heart. But those people are not accepting big donations. They're not accepting a lot of outside money and are doing a lot of grassroots fundraising. When you're looking at like grassroots fundraising versus like Silicon Valley funding, you just get squished. Yeah, you get squished like a little bug.
The reason whistleblowers are so important is we were talking about how even you still have this skewed view
Skeptic
of the community.
I am the Scully of this podcast,
From
right?
the X-Files?
Yeah, from the X-Files. You're Mulder or you're the David Duchovny.
I'll be him. That's great.
He's a handsome,
absolutely.
a handsome sex addict.
I was going to say hand model.
But the thing is
with a lot of these prominent whistleblowers coming out and a lot of the documentaries and a lot of videos being released from actual military video, and Congress actually taking notice and calling for this information to come forward, it's making it as though this community isn't as crazy as they have seemed in the past, or that the government has made them seem. It's vindicating for a lot of these people who have been called crazy, because I've known multiple people who have seen strange phenomenon and different things, but they don't like talking about it because of the stigma around the culture.
Well, and some
that
of
was
it
created by the government, I believe.
Okay, sure. I think that there's a lot of phenomena that people see and they don't have the language to describe what they're seeing. So they're just like regular people like me and you who might see something up in the cosmos, up in the heavens, and they don't know how to describe what an asteroid is, or, a satellite is, or slight shifts in weather or whatever. And so there are things that naturally occur here that people just don't have the experience with. And when they see something like a lightning ball, I don't know if you've seen those before, but they're just like these little balls of lightning that aren't grounded and they just float around.
I have
and they're
seen
terribly dangerous.
I've seen that in the house I'm in right now.
Yeah, those are incredibly dangerous.
So Jordan and I both saw it. We were sitting on the couch and we both saw it in our peripherals.
Yeah.
And when we looked, it was gone.
If you don't have an understanding of that, you could attribute that to an extraterrestrial phenomenon.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you don't have the language or the experience, then it's otherworldly to see that.
Yeah. It freaked us out.
For sure.
And we didn't know, and we did research and figured out what it was.
Yeah. I do want to get, and I know this is at the end of the podcast, so me saying get ahead of it, what this podcast is about. What it is about for me is I want to gain an understanding of something that I don't understand or I don't have a lot of knowledge of, and this is my way of doing it. I primarily like talking about movies, and I have a separate podcast where I get the opportunity to do that. But I also really love information, and this is something that was near and dear to my friend Josh, and I really am interested in it. And so that is my interest in this podcast. I am looking forward to learning as much about aliens, phenomena, flying saucers, Area 51, Not so interested in like the Bob Lazar of it all necessarily, but I am very interested in like cult of personality. And I think Bob Lazar has a cult of personality. I think that there's a huge following and that people get into ufology because of Bob Lazar. Not that he's charismatic, but because of the buzz around him, I guess, if it were. I don't know if that's the right word, but...
Well, and also the bizarreness.
He brings a lot of, his milkshake, as it were, brings a lot of boys to the yard.
Yeah. I'm learning and getting all this info too. I appreciate that you're coming at it the way you are with...
Hey, I appreciate you too, Josh.
No, I appreciate that you're coming at it the way you are by questioning everything. I mean, that's important. I'm never going to deny someone's question. I'm eager and excited to learn just as much as you are, but I'm more prone to believe with just the information that I have.
Sure.
Which is awesome. I want to encourage anyone listening to do your own research. Don't just listen to what we're saying.
No. Listen to what we're saying.
Yes, please listen.
In complement to this nonsense, there are resources out there for you guys to look up.
Yeah, we want you to learn about Bob Lazar and form your own opinions.
And fortunately for us, unfortunately for you, we don't have an email set up just yet, so we can say whatever we want, consequence-free. Haha, suck it, nerds.
With that, we do have a quiz. So, next episode, we're going to talk about the Roswell incident. One of the most groundbreaking, most popular incident of incidences.
If you don't know anything about aliens, you probably have a very tertiary knowledge of Roswell and what Roswell is. The titular Roswell incident.
And we're going to get into it. And
we will talk about next week.
There was whistleblowers in that as well.
Okay, I feel like we said whistleblowers a lot in this episode.
Well, they're important. So, for a kind of a baseline of where we're at with Roswell, we are going to do a quiz to see what we each know.
Get ready for disappointment if you're putting all of your eggs in my basket. Not gonna be fun. Oh boy. You want to take the first one?
Like ask you?
I'll ask you.
Okay.
No, you ask me. You ask me because I have the advantage of seeing all the questions, just not knowing any of the answers.
Okay. You want to make yourself look as good as possible.
No, I want to get... Okay, yeah. I want all the easy questions. We were given a little qualifier before we started. Don't click any of the things because it may not give us a real-time answer. I think we have to submit to find what our... But go ahead, Josh. Take it away.
So I'm going to ask you the first question.
Yeah.
All right. Question 1 for Travis. Where is Roswell? Is it Nevada, Arizona, Texas, or New Mexico?
It is in the great state of Nevada. Final answer. Home of sin and luxury.
Okay.
I don't know if it's luxury. It's really hot in Nevada.
Great answer. Do you want to ask me the next one?
Yeah, hold on. Before we get to this, we will submit our answers, so we will have a full summary of this at the end of the quiz. So, Josh, what year did the Roswell UFO incident occur? Was it the year 1917, 1947, 1967, or 1987?
I believe it was 1947.
Okay. Go ahead and ask me the next question.
What was initially reported in the newspaper to have been found at Roswell?
I believe that was a weather balloon.
They are a weather balloon, a meteorite, a flying disc, or a military aircraft. And so you say weather balloon.
I said weather balloon. Yeah.
Okay,
Josh, what did the military claim was actually found at the Roswell site? Was it an experimental aircraft, a Soviet spy device, a weather balloon, a school science project?
A weather balloon.
Okay.
All right. What secret military project was the incident blamed on?
Oh, Jesus.
Project Blue Book, Project Mogul, Project Sign, or Project Grudge?
I don't know. I'm going to guess, because it seems like there was so much, and this is way off base. I'm going to say Project Grudge, but only because it seemed like somebody had an axe to grind against Bob Lazar.
Okay.
Josh.
Yes.
What else is said to have been found in the Roswell debris? Was it alien bodies, unidentified plants, advanced weapons or alien hieroglyphics?
The answer is alien bodies.
Alien bodies. Okay. Hit submit. New Mexico. I was wrong. So right off the bat, I was wrong. And it continued on after that. Josh got his right, 1947. I got my, what was initially reported in the newspapers to have been found at Roswell as a weather balloon. That's wrong. It was a flying disc.
It was redone. Well, we'll get about that later.
Josh's question, what did the military claim was actually found at Roswell, was a weather balloon. So that's where...
they changed it.
That's what I had thought. So Josh got his right. What secret military project was the incident blamed on? I said Project Grudge. Wrong. Project Mogul. And then, of course, the last question, what else is said to have been found in the Roswell debris? Josh correctly answered alien body. So 100% to Josh, 0% to me.
I wouldn't have gotten the project one correct. All the other ones I knew.
Well, next time speak up, Josh. I would have gotten the aliens one right. I would have gotten weather balloons right.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one that picked the order so that you'd look good.
I know. I'm an idiot. I'm a legal idiot.
Well, cool. Now we know who knows what going into our Roswell episode.
I know nothing. Josh knows quite a bit.
It's exciting. There's a lot to get into it with it.
Okay. Well, how do we end this, Josh? What do we do? Thanks for coming to the show. Thanks for listening. I appreciate your time. I love you, you crazy paranoid freaks. Keep listening. Grow with us. Grow as we grow. This show is a grower, not a shower.
Yes. I respect all of you in this fine community.
You're going to get arrested for pandering.
I could. Hopefully.
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to get arrested. You're going to get a raid in here for pandering.
I'm just excited to do this show. And as we learn and grow, you can be on this journey with us. If you're in the same boat as us, where you're interested, but you don't know a lot, maybe our little show will ease you into it just like it is us.
Sure. Yep.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Okay. Bye.